My girlfriend thought I was out of town. I decided to surprise her, only to walk into a steakhouse and find her cozying up to a stranger. I pulled out my phone, snapped a picture, and said, "Smile. This one's going in the breakup album." I never thought I'd be in this situation. I never thought I'd be the one writing something like this. But here I am. My girlfriend, Sarah, and I had been together for almost 3 years. We lived together in a nice apartment in Lincoln Park, Chicago. She worked in advertising, and I worked in marketing. We had a good life. Or so I thought. A few weeks ago, I was supposed to be out of town for a work conference in Seattle. I had a flight scheduled for Thursday morning, and I wasn't supposed to be back until late Sunday night. Sarah knew this. We had even talked about how she was going to have a girls' weekend while I was gone. Then something happened. My boss called me late Wednesday night. The conference was canceled. Budget cuts. My flight was refundable, and I had no reason to be in Seattle anymore. I figured, why not surprise Sarah? I'd come home early, take her out to dinner, and we'd have an unexpected weekend together. Thursday morning, instead of going to the airport, I stayed home, worked remotely from a coffee shop for a few hours, then decided to surprise her that evening. I went to a florist, grabbed a bouquet of her favorite flowers, white lilies, and took an Uber back to our apartment. The plan was simple: walk in, surprise her, and take her somewhere nice for dinner. Maybe even our favorite steakhouse, Gibson's. But when I walked into the apartment, something felt off. The first thing I noticed was the shoes. A pair of black Nike sneakers sat by the door. I don't own black Nikes, and I definitely don't wear a size 13. I stood there for a few seconds, just staring at them, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe one of her friends had come over? Maybe someone had stopped by and left their shoes at the door? But as much as I wanted to rationalize it, I knew something was wrong. The apartment smelled different too. It still had Sarah's vanilla-scented candles burning, but underneath that, there was something else. A scent I didn't recognize. Cologne. My heart started pounding. I took a deep breath and called out, "Sarah?" Silence. The bedroom door was closed. I set the flowers down on the kitchen counter and walked down the hall. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't even sure why yet. I pressed my ear against the door. I didn't hear anything. I knocked. No answer. I pushed the door open. Sarah was lying in bed alone, scrolling through her phone. For a second, I felt relieved. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe there was a completely innocent explanation for the shoes. Then she looked up and saw me. Her entire body stiffened. Her face turned pale. She didn't say, "Oh my God, you're home," or "What a surprise." She didn't smile. She didn't even sit up. Instead, the first words out of her mouth were, "You're supposed to be in Seattle." Not a greeting. Not excitement. Just panic. My stomach dropped. I took a step inside. "Whose shoes are those?" She blinked. Too long of a pause. "They're, my friends." Her voice was unsteady. I tilted my head. "What friend?" Another pause. "You don't know him." That was it. That was the moment. That single sentence told me everything I needed to know. I stepped back into the hallway, looked around, listened. The apartment was silent, but I knew someone else had been here. "Where is he now?" I asked. Sarah swallowed hard. He left." I stared at her. She was lying. I turned and walked back into the living room. My mind was racing, but I forced myself to stay calm. I looked at the shoes again, then glanced toward the coat rack. A black jacket was hanging there. Definitely not mine. I pulled out my phone and opened my texts. And that's when everything truly unraveled. A notification from a mutual friend popped up. A picture. Sarah. Sitting at Gibson's Steakhouse. Not alone. A guy was sitting across from her. His arm was draped over the back of her chair. She was smiling at him. I zoomed in. Her hand was on his knee. My hands went numb. My vision blurred for a second. She had been at the steakhouse. Our steakhouse. The place we went to for every special occasion. For date nights. For celebrations. The place where, just last year, we talked about marriage over a bottle of wine. I looked up from my phone and turned toward the bedroom. Sarah was still sitting there, eyes wide, clutching her phone like she was waiting for something. Or maybe she was just waiting for me to explode. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell. I didn't demand answers. I just grabbed my keys and walked out the door. I took a cab straight to Gibson's. The cab ride to Gibson's felt like a fever dream. My body was moving, my mind racing, but everything outside the window blurred together. I kept looking at the picture on my phone, as if staring at it long enough would somehow change what I was seeing. Sarah, sitting there, smiling, her hand on his knee, his arm around her chair like he belonged there. I had been gone for less than a day. That's all it took. When the cab pulled up to the restaurant, I sat there for a moment, gripping my phone. My heart pounded in my chest, but my face felt cold. I wasn't even sure what I was about to do. I just knew I had to see it for myself. I walked inside. The place was packed, the low hum of conversations blending with the clinking of silverware and soft jazz playing in the background. Then I saw them. Tucked away in the corner, just like in the picture. Sarah was leaning in close, laughing at something he said. She looked so comfortable, so at ease. Like this wasn't new. Like this wasn't a mistake. I took out my phone, snapped a picture, and stepped forward. Sarah noticed me first. Her eyes locked onto mine, and all the color drained from her face. Her smile disappeared. Her back went stiff. She opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't let her. I held up my phone and said, "Smile. This one's going in the breakup album." Click. Silence. The guy looked at me, confused. He had sharp features, dark hair, and the kind of smirk that made my blood boil. He glanced at Sarah, then back at me. "Who the hell are you?" Sarah shot him a look. A silent warning. Interesting. I turned to him, keeping my voice steady. "I'm her boyfriend. Or at least, I was until about 5 seconds ago." His eyebrows shot up. "Boyfriend?" Sarah swallowed hard. I can explain." I laughed. Actually laughed. "I don't need an explanation," I said. "I just came to see it for myself." Then I turned and started walking toward the door. But then something happened. The guy, her date, grabbed my arm. I stopped, looked down at his hand, slowly turned back to face him. He didn't let go. "Hey, man," he said, his voice low. "You don't have to make a scene." "A scene?" I yanked my arm away. "A scene is what happens when I start flipping tables. This." I gestured between us. "This is just me leaving." He held up his hands like he was being reasonable. "Look, I had no idea she had a boyfriend. I wouldn't have." But before he could finish, Sarah blurted out, "We were on a break." I turned back to her so fast she flinched. "We were on a break?" I repeated. "That's what you're going with?" Her hands were shaking now. I thought you were out of town." "I didn't think. You didn't think you'd get caught," I said flatly. Her eyes darted around the restaurant, like she was suddenly aware of the people around us. Some diners were staring. A few looked away quickly, pretending not to listen. She shrank back in her seat. "Let's talk outside," she whispered. "I have nothing to say to you." I turned to leave again, but the guy this time, I noticed his expensive watch, his neatly pressed shirt, the way he carried himself, spoke up again. "I should have known," he muttered. "You seem too good to be true." I froze. Sarah's head snapped toward him. "Ethan, don't." "Ethan." I looked between them. "How long?" I asked. Sarah's lip trembled. "It's not like that." I stepped closer, my voice dropping. "How long?" Ethan exhaled and shook his head. "I don't know, man. A couple of months." Sarah shot up from her seat. "Ethan, stop." But it was too late. Something inside me cracked. Months. Not a drunken mistake. Not a one-time lapse in judgment. Months. The restaurant felt too small. The air too thick. I took a slow breath, shoving my hands in my pockets to keep them from shaking. I looked at Sarah one last time. She wasn't crying, but she looked like she wanted to. Then I walked out. I didn't stop. I didn't turn back. I didn't care if she followed me. I had all the answers I needed. Or at least, I thought I did. I was halfway down the street when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "I need to talk to you. Please. It's important." I stared at the screen. And then another message popped up. "There's something you don't know." I stood there on the sidewalk, my heart still racing from everything that had just happened. The cold night air felt sharp in my lungs, but my body was burning with something between rage and disbelief. I looked down at my phone. The unknown number. The messages. "I need to talk to you. Please. It's important. There's something you don't know." For a second, I debated ignoring it. I was done. I had walked away. I wasn't going to let Sarah drag me back into whatever mess she had created. But something about those words, "it's important," made me pause. I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again, then a reply. "Ethan." I exhaled sharply through my nose. "Of course. Not interested," I replied, shoving my phone back into my pocket. I was about to call an Uber when my phone buzzed again. "You should be." I clenched my jaw, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Then another message. She lied to both of us. My stomach turned. I didn't want to care. I really didn't. But something about the way he phrased it, something about the way Sarah had panicked when he started talking was gnawing at me. I stood there for a full minute before my fingers moved on their own. "Explain." Less than 10 seconds later, my phone rang. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity won. "Yeah," I said flatly. Ethan sighed. "Listen, man. I know I'm probably the last person you want to talk to, but I didn't know about you. I swear. I didn't say anything. I met her at a conference back in April," he continued. "She told me she had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. Said she wasn't ready to date seriously but wanted to take things slow. I had no reason to think she was lying." April. That was 6 months ago. I felt sick. Ethan kept talking. "I started catching on to little things a couple of weeks ago. She'd cancel plans last minute. Wouldn't let me come over to her place. Never posted pictures of us anywhere. When I asked why, she said she wasn't over her ex and didn't want to hurt him. My grip tightened around my phone. So tonight, when you showed up and said you were her boyfriend, it clicked, he said. I wasn't the other guy. You were. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I was the one she had been lying to. I was the one living in her apartment, thinking we had a future. And the entire time, I was just the guy she hadn't figured out how to leave yet. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked, my voice tight. Because I just found out something else, Ethan said. And I don't think I'm the only one. I swallowed hard. What does that mean? Ethan exhaled, like he was trying to figure out how to say it. I did some digging after you left the restaurant. I was pissed. I wanted to know how deep this went. So I checked her Instagram, her tagged photos, her comments. I could hear him moving around, the sound of his footsteps echoing. And I found something. Well, someone. My stomach twisted. Who? A pause. Then, his name's Matt. The name didn't ring a bell. And according to his posts, Ethan said, he and Sarah went to Mexico together 2 months ago. As a couple. The world tilted. I ran a hand down my face, trying to process what I was hearing. 2 months ago, Sarah and I had gone to a Cubs game together. 2 months ago, we had gone furniture shopping for the apartment. 2 months ago, we were still talking about getting a dog. And 2 months ago, she had apparently been on vacation with someone else. I sat down on a bench, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me up. Ethan kept going. I messaged him, told him I was her boyfriend. Guess what he said? I didn't answer. He said, no, I'm her boyfriend. I squeezed my eyes shut. 3. There were 3 of us. She's been running 3 different relationships at the same time, Ethan said. I don't even know if we're the only ones. But Matt, he's pissed. And he wants to talk to you. I rubbed my temples. This is insane. I know, Ethan said. But listen, man. We need to get ahead of this. If we let her keep doing this, she's just going to move on to the next guy and do it all over again. I didn't respond. Look, I don't care if you never want to talk to me again after this, Ethan continued. But you deserve to know the truth. And Matt does too. We're meeting up tomorrow. You in? I let out a shaky breath. Everything in me wanted to walk away. To let it go. But something about this wasn't sitting right. Sarah wasn't just someone who had made a mistake. This wasn't one bad decision. She had built an entire life around lying. And for some reason, I felt like I wasn't done yet. I took a deep breath and said, tell me when and where. The next evening, I met Ethan and Matt at a bar near Wrigleyville. It was the kind of place that was loud enough to drown out any tension but quiet enough that we could actually talk. I spotted Ethan first. Leaning against the bar, arms crossed, scanning the room like a guy who was still processing just how deep he'd been played. And then there was Matt. He looked different from what I expected. Not angry, not confrontational, just exhausted. Like he had already been through this in his head 100 times before walking through the door. We all sat down at a table in the corner. No one spoke at first. The weight of what we were about to discuss sat between us like a loaded gun. Matt was the first to break the silence. So, Sarah. I let out a dry laugh. Yeah, Sarah. Ethan exhaled through his nose. I can't believe this is real. She told me she loved me, Matt said, shaking his head. We talked about moving in together. She met my parents. I tensed. She met your parents? Matt nodded. 3 weeks ago. My stomach turned. 3 weeks ago, Sarah and I had gone out for dinner. She had kissed me on the forehead when we got home. Said she was exhausted from a work trip. But she wasn't on a work trip. She was meeting Matt's family. Ethan rubbed his temples. I don't know how she pulled this off. 3 different relationships. 3 different guys. It's not like we live in different states. She had to be juggling all of this while working, while keeping up with our schedules. She's good at lying, I said, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. They both looked at me. I swallowed hard. She's not just cheating. She's living these lies. She's not someone who made a mistake. She built a whole life around it. Matt let out a slow breath. So what do we do? Ethan leaned forward. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not letting her walk away from this like nothing happened. He pulled out his phone. She's supposed to meet me tonight. I told her I wanted to talk things through. That I wasn't mad. Matt's eyebrows shot up. She agreed. Ethan smirked bitterly. Of course she did. She's trying to keep at least one of us in her back pocket. Silence. Then Matt sat back in his chair, arms crossed. Where's she meeting you? Ethan's eyes flicked between us. Gibson's. A slow, knowing grin spread across Matt's face. Perfect. 2 hours later, the 3 of us walked into Gibson's steakhouse together. Ethan led the way. Matt and I followed just a few steps behind. Sarah was already seated at a booth, looking at her phone, sipping a glass of wine. She had done her hair, worn her favorite red dress. She looked like someone who believed she still had control of the situation. Then she saw us. Her smile faltered. Her body went still. She looked at Ethan first, confused. Then at Matt. Then at me. I watched as the realization sank in. Her lips parted slightly. Hey, babe. Ethan said, sliding into the booth across from her. Surprise. Matt sat beside him. I leaned against the end of the table, arms crossed. Sarah's eyes darted around the restaurant. She looked like she wanted to bolt. No one spoke. For the first time, I saw her struggling to find the right words. Ethan took a sip of water. So, who do you want to explain yourself to first? Sarah let out a shaky breath. I don't know what's going on, but don't. Matt cut in. His voice was low, firm. Don't lie. We know everything. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. You don't understand. We understand just fine, I said. She looked at me then, and for the first time, I saw something behind her eyes that wasn't panic. It was shame. She knew there was no way out of this. No way to manipulate, twist, or gaslight her way back to safety. She was cornered. I never meant to hurt anyone, she whispered. Ethan let out a cold laugh. That's your excuse? You never meant to hurt anyone? You lived a double, no, a triple life for 6 months, Sarah. You told me you wanted a future with me. You told me the same thing, Matt added. I clenched my jaw, and I thought we had one. She buried her face in her hands for a moment, shaking her head. Say something real, I said. For once. No lies. No excuses. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. I was scared. Matt scoffed. Of what? She wiped at her cheek, smearing her mascara. Of choosing wrong. My entire body tensed. She sniffed, shaking her head. I thought if I could just keep things going a little longer, I'd know for sure. I'd figure out who was the right person for me. Ethan exhaled sharply. That's insane. I know. She bit her lip, her voice breaking. I know. But I kept convincing myself that no one was really getting hurt. That as long as I didn't let things crash down, I could fix it. She broke off, covering her mouth with her hand. I didn't feel bad for her. I didn't feel anything. Matt leaned forward, his expression unreadable. So what now? Sarah looked up at him, confused. Ethan crossed his arms. You don't get to just cry and walk away, Sarah. You don't get to say, I didn't mean it, and expect us to nod and go home. Sarah's lip trembled. I know. I stared at her. Then tell me this. If we hadn't all found out, how much longer would it have gone on? She opened her mouth, then closed it. And that told me everything. I stepped back from the table. I'm done, I said. I don't need anything else from you. I just wanted to see you face it. Matt nodded, standing up too. Same here. Ethan leaned back in the booth, arms spread. I'd love to stick around and keep tearing into you, but honestly, he exhaled. You're not even worth it. Sarah wiped at her cheeks again, nodding quickly like she wanted to disappear. I looked at her one last time. I didn't see the woman I loved. I didn't even see someone I used to love. I just saw a stranger. We walked out together, the three of us. Outside, we stood in silence for a few seconds. Then Ethan turned to me. Drinks? Matt nodded. Definitely. I let out a breath, then nodded too. We walked away, leaving Sarah behind. I didn't know what would happen next. Didn't know if we'd keep in touch or if we'd all just go our separate ways. But one thing was for sure. She didn't get to choose who walked away. We did.